new project, and here we're just going to create a Visual Basic Console application. Then we click on next, and then maybe we'll call it um, class. Let's call it programming lesson 1. So we click next, click next. So create a project. So we'll go ahead and wait for Visual Studio to create a project. There are some files that will be generated automatically. So it creates your Hello World. Hello World is the default or the simplest program everybody should be able to write. Uh, so here we have the import system. Like we said, this is where you have your namespace, and you bring all your libraries in. And so like system is the library that controls all the system properties in uh, Windows. All the system features available are under the system library. So once you bring in this system library, once you import them using the import keyword, it means you will be able to access all the members of that class, all the members, both the properties and the behavior. You will be able to access them and then do a lot of things instead of you having to do it yourself. Okay, so that's for the namespace section. Of course, here module program, because we are writing a console application, and so we have to use the module. And so here we have, this is the block module program. You end the module, and here you have just a simple submain. And what does the main does? Now you can see that this main method is a main method. Okay, and what the main method is doing is it is taking args as string. Okay, this is a string array, so it's taking arg as string array. So that's typically what the main method does. And then this is the main thread of this application running. So everything is going to come under here. So when we click run here, what happens? Let's see what happens when we click run. When you click on run, it's going to compile the code and look at the results here. Hello world. You can see hello world here. That's the output. You are just telling it to display on the console your hello world, and so that's what you've just done, creating on your console hello world. So okay, we're going to continue. We're going to continue. That's typically what it does, but we are not interested in writing hello world today. Maybe just to show you console.writeLine. You are writing on the console, and everything you are writing must appear on a line. So you see, this write line says the writes the specified string value followed by the current line terminator to the standard output stream. So everything you write here will be on a line. So for example, I am a child of God, and so I'm a child of God, and then we run this, see what's going to happen on the output stream. Of course, here I'm a child of God. So whatever you write is going to be on the line. That's why you are calling it system.writeLine. Okay, so let's do some other things now. Okay, so we're going to remove this write line. We're going to leave it. I'm going to use a comment line. The comment to be a singular comment, like comment. This is where the main thread runs. Of course, this is not a code. I'm just trying to tell you this is where the main thread runs. So let's leave everything here blank, and let's go ahead inside the module. Let's go ahead to create a class. So we're going to call it public class. We want the class to be public class car. Okay, so and immediately I click enter, the end class closing will come, which is this. Like, it's going to close that scope. Okay, so what do we want to do in a class? Of course, class, there are major members of a class. I'm trying to, so that we know what to do. I'm commenting it. Major member is properties. Properties. We also have constructor, and we also have methods. Okay, methods, which are also called behaviors. So depending on the one you want to do. So it's good you write comments like this so that you know what you actually want to do in the program. So what are the properties we want to look at for a car? Because we want to look at model, of course. We want to look at public property, model. Okay, so public property model as string. You may want to define it. So here, public property, here as integer. And you may also want to public property engine type as string. Okay, so here we have defined three properties, so we are done with the property section. So on the constructor, what do we want the constructor to do? Of course, we want the constructor to, of course, you know, a constructor is written as subnew, this and this. This is typically what a constructor looks like. Subnew, then you have subnew method, and then you have endsub. So what do we want? Do we want a parameterized constructor or we want a non-parameterized constructor? In our case this time, let's say we want the constructor to be parameterized. Remember, the constructor is what happens when the object of this class is initialized. So let's do like this. Say we're going to take model string. These are the arguments going to take, and then we're going to take year as integer, and we're going to take the last one, engine type as string. Okay, so we will quickly do this. These are the parameters that the constructor is going to take. Okay, sorry, I'm going to increase this so that you can see what I'm doing very well. Okay, so here we now need to write what do we want to do with this model. You can observe this is a small letter m, small letter y, small letter e. It's different from these class variables with capital letter M, capital letter Y, and capital letter E, or this one's in title case. So now what I want to happen is when the object of the class is created, this constructor will be this constructor will be initialized or will be executed. And so what I want in that case is I want to assign the values of the object to to the class variables. Now see what I'm going to do. This me is the class. This class car. Of course, me here is referring to the me keyword is always used to refer to the parent scope of that context where you are in, because here is sub. All of them, this sub is under the class, so that's me. You have me there. So that is me provides a way to refer to the current instance of a class or a structure. So what is the current class or structure we are in? We are in class car. Okay, so this is me dot taking the property now, model is equal to model. Okay, that's the first one. So me, the class, we are referring to the current class or the instance. The current class we are now or is the class car. So the next one is me dot year is equal to year, and me dot engine type is equal to engine type. Okay, so what we have just done is we are asking that whenever this object is created, the constructor, the object instance or the instance of this class should have three variables, model, year, and integer, so that will be the default value for the class variable for model, for year, and for engine type. But if we don't want to parameterize it, we could still take this back, remove this away, and give it a fixed value. We can say the model can say the model of this is 2022. We can say, sorry, the model is let's call it Toyota Corolla, and let's call the year, which is an integer, 2022, and let's call the engine type V6, which is a string. Okay, so this is also a type of constructor. I can decide to keep this constructor like this, or to leave, or to pass the values as an argument whenever the object is created. So, but let me leave it like this. This will now become, whenever this object car is created, this will be the original behavior of the class, and this will be what will originally happen. And then after this, we can now decide to create other methods of or behavior of the class. Okay, so let's do something. Remember, in this case, we already have a value for the class variable model year, me dot year, me dot, well, for model year and engine type. Okay, so we could also, since we have assigned values to this, we'll come here and maybe create, let's create, say let's call it uh, servicing sub service. Okay, so we'll call it public sub service, Okay, so we want to know when the car will be due for servicing. Okay, so since we want to know when the car will be due for servicing, we will just do some little work here. So this is, remember, this is a behavior. We say if mileage. So we want to introduce mileage now. We want to know the mileage of the car. Say if mileage is greater than 100. So we can do if mileage. Now remember, we don't have mileage in the class variable. We don't have mileage as one of the property of the car. So we can introduce mileage. So we can come here and say public property mileage, or mileage as integer. Okay, so we can say default mileage, me dot mileage. Of course, when you buy a car newly, the mileage is 0. That's clear. So we'll come here and say if mileage, if mileage, you can call it mileage, if mileage is greater than 100, what should happen? What should happen? Then you can say console dot write line your car is due for servicing. Your car is due for servicing. And so we can even decide, okay, let's know the mileage from the the user. So we can say we can take a variable, say get mileage is equal to console dot read line, okay, enter, hold on, let's call this dim mileage because we don't have mileage before, so let's say dim mileage. So this gets the value yeah, enter your, let's keep this string open and first come here, say console dot write line, and let's ask the user to enter the current mileage of your Toyota, of your car, So when we do this, of course we've gotten the mileage, and so we'll say if get mileage, this new mileage you have gotten because you've taken it from the stream, if it is greater than 100, then your car is due for servicing. Else, you can write to the user, say servicing is not due yet. Or check again later, no service alerts at the moment. Okay, so when we get all of this done, so we will come to the main where everything happens. This is where, you know, where the main thread of the program executes. So that's the program.main. This is the main method. And so we come here and create an object of the class. So we can say dim Toyota, dim Toyota, or say like dim my car as new car. Okay, this is your car's new car. So remember, what we are doing here is we are creating an object my car, and for the new car we are creating an object my car for the new class, this class car we are calling it here. So creating an instance of the blueprint car. Okay, so after that we say that, remember, when you do this, you are going to call this constructor. Look at this constructor here. The first thing that will happen is you are calling this guy, because the constructor is the follow come method of the class. So immediately you are doing this, as you are creating this object, because this is how to create an object. As you are creating this object, the first thing that is happening is the constructor executes. So it gives you the default value of this. Okay, so now you want to say my car dots. Okay, let's do something here, because here we are not actually doing the servicing. We are saying check servicing. That's check if the vehicle is due for servicing. So we'll come here and say my car dot check servicing. Okay, so check servicing. So this will go and call that behavior in the class. You don't need to do, see all what we did here. All what we did here was create an object, which is my car, by doing dim my car's new car. Then using that object, we can access all the members of the class. Yes, you can access all the members of the class. Like now, we are accessing the method of the class called check servicing. Okay, so when we call this check servicing, what will happen is this. It will ask for the mileage by default. Okay, let's see something. Remember I said when you call this, when you initialize or when you create an object from a class, the constructor is called, if any. So now this is my car. Let's see, because this constructor has been called, let's see the mileage value as the object is created. You will see the mileage value is 0 because that's the follow come value. My car dots, okay, mileage, you can see the mileage. Let's see, we want to get it. Okay, so let's say console.writeLine my car.mileage. Let's see the mileage, the default mileage, because I want to prove to you that whenever you create an object, the constructor executes. Remember, we haven't called the, but whenever you are creating an object, the constructor executes. So we want to see, has this my car now been able to carry this new value of in the constructor, which is this default value, which is 0. So let's see. So we're going to get that my car. We'll come here, say your default mileage is this. Okay, so we'll do some concatenation. Okay, your default mileage is this because you have called the constructor. Then after that, we can now do for check for servicing. And when we do check for servicing, the first thing is going to ask you the current mileage of your car. Then you enter a value. Then from there, it will tell you whether it's due for servicing. Okay, let's see how these codes perform. I just run the code now. So let's see what happens. Okay. code is running, building started, program lesson. Okay, let's see code. What's happening here? Um, what's happening? Uh, oh, there's an error. Exception true. There's an error. Exception thrown. Invalid cast exception. Okay, yeah, there's an error thrown. Okay, let's correct the error. The error says that I have, instead of an integer, I've gone to concatenate an integer with string. That's where the error is. So, okay, look at the error here. The error says an unhandled exception occurred. So, it says an unhandled exception of type invalid cast exception. That is, your default message is to type double, so it's not valid. And that's true because this my car mileage is supposed to be an integer, and now this is now a string, so it's not going to be able to handle that. So let me see this. My car days dot to string. I want to convert that integer value to string, so that will solve the problem because I'm casting it. Because by default this is an integer, and integer plus string is going to give you an invalid cast exception. So I better cast this integer to a string, that is, so that I can be able to have that display. Okay, let's see what happens this time. Let's see what happens. Still an error still. Okay, good. So we fixed that error. So you see, as the system runs, the first thing the system is telling us is your default mileage is 0. Now, this zero is showing you the constructor. Because of the constructor we did, so when we call the object, it quickly assigned that mileage dot that car dot mileage, assign this to 0. Now let's say, what is the current mileage of your car? Let's say the current mileage of my car is, let me put 200 or 2000 or 2, let me put 200. As I press enter, it's going to say your car is due for servicing. Your car is due for servicing. But if I put 50, it's going to tell me to check back. Okay, let's close this, and then let me try to run the program again, as in let me execute it with different set of values. So let's see. Let me execute with different set of values. Let's see. Okay, current. Okay, let me see. The mileage is just 30. As I press enter, it's going to say check again later. No service alert at the moment. So remember, what we have just done here is we've gotten the concept of constructor, which is this. You've seen it, I'll play here. And then we've also gone to access a class member, which is the behavior, the method, and that is the method check servicing. And then the system asks us to enter the current mileage of the car. We enter 30, and remember, based on the if statement we used, we said if it is greater than 100, you should go for servicing, and if it is less than 100, you should check again later. No service alert at the moment. So thank you for staying tuned. I think basically these are it. From beginning, you saw how we began. Programming is actually an act. Everything is like, in programming, is an act. You think of it, and whatever you think of, it's possible for you to execute them. So why I'm able to write codes effectively is because I first of all think or imagine on anything I want to do. So your power of imagination have to be very strong when you're programming. Think about anything, think about a problem, then you go ahead trying to solve the problem. Okay, this class or this tutorial is to show you constructors, but the type of constructors I used here are like constructors that are not parameterized. I could decide to parameterize this function. Like, okay, let me take you through that. Let me take you through the parameterized constructor. Okay, this constructor is not parameterized, so it's all follow come. I can decide that the user should I can decide that the user should, let me copy this and paste this here, so that the user can override a parameterized constructor. So let me put here, instead of doing like this, I'm going to put model as string, year as integer, and year as integer, engine engine type as string, and mileage as integer. Okay, sorry, this year as integer, mileage as integer. Am I right? Yeah, mileage as integer. Okay, good. So comma, please. So separate the arguments by comma. So integer. Okay, this corrects it. Okay, so now I will just need to assign this to model. Instead of giving them a fixed value, I would not vary it like parameter. That's what we call parameterize, so that when you create the object, you should be able to give it any value you want. Okay, so let's see these, and okay, go back to the mileage, and here we have mileage. Okay, so doing this, I have parameterized the constructor. So let me remove this one that is not parameterized. And so you will see that if I run this program, you can see there's an error here because it's telling me that I need to put in, because the constructor has been parameterized. So I must give it a value. Okay, so the first value on the constructor, or these are the parameters. Now I want to pass the arguments. These are parameters. These are parameters. Now where I put the values are the argument. So now let me put the argument. The first argument I'm going to put is for the parameter model. Model, the argument is, let's say my model is Toyota Camry 2018 or 2019, whichever. So the next one is the year. Which year? Okay, let me put the year separate. The next one is 2019, comma, what's the next parameter? The engine type. Okay, that's a string v6. Remember, you must follow the data type you have used when you were creating the parameter. Then the next one, the mileage. Now I can decide that the mileage of my car is 50. I can decide that the mileage is 70, depending on what I want. So by this now, this is a parameterized constructor. I have been able to now, this is different because why this is better than the other one. The other one, there are cases where you can use the other one. There are cases where you can use this one. Actually, when you are using this one is when you want the user, when the object is created, you want to actually pass, you want the object to come with its own follow come value. Oh, that's good. But sometimes in programming, we may just decide to bond the values in case the users, in case when creating the object, in case you don't want to bother specifying the arguments. So you just go ahead and execute, just have done like this. So this is a parameterized one, and it's different from the one you just do new car with parentheses and go ahead. This one you do new car, but in the parentheses you pass in the argument, and the number of arguments you have passed here must correspond to the number of parameters that were created. Okay, this is Toyota Camry 1, year is 2, v6 3, this one is 4. So here 2 is model 1, year 2, engine type 3, and the last one is mileage 4. So you must make sure they all tally. Okay, now let's see what happens here. Let's try to run the program. Try to run the program. I want to believe there are no error. I just want to show you types of constructor. Basically, because this is introduction to programming, or this is computer programming 1, just show you. Okay, let's see what happens. Hope there are no error this time. Hope there are no error. Because sometimes when there's an error, we have error in this code. So we can always see at the immediate output, we can see output here. We can see what's happening. Okay, see what's happening by the output window. This is output. There's an error list here, so we can see all what's happening. Let's see. Okay, good, the program ran successfully. your default mileage now is 70, no longer 0, because when the object was created, we passed in the argument to the constructor. Now, you can decide now to now change the, okay, you bought it at 70, or the vehicle was, the object was created, the object of the class was created at 70, but now we want to change it. Say maybe it has gotten to 120 now. And once you click enter, it's going to say your car is due for servicing, based on it has called the one of the members, which is the method or the behavior of the class car, and that's why it's giving us your car is due for servicing. I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I'd like to I'll show you the codes. So these are the codes, everything, but you could do more and more than this. Programming is an art, it's not a cram work. It's not, it's just something you think about, understand the language, and then as you do so, you know, you can write anything. Okay, so thank you. This is object-oriented programming, one of the basics, which is object and classes, and then constructors and class members. So this is the class, this is the class. The class is the blueprint. This is the blueprint. The blueprint is from this place to where you have the end class. So it contains the properties, the constructor, the methods, and the behavior. And that's where you have the end class. So all what we have here is up, where we declared this is where an object is created. So here we create an object. Object is created or initialized okay, created or initialized. Then this next line is we just try to we try to modify the we'll try to modify okay, we try to get the default mileage, of course, which is 70, and then we went ahead to call, yes, here we called the check servicing method of my car. Okay, thank you. See you in the next video. Bye for now.